Mangwana ni mwalelepo fukenjani class vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Berry and Anna Raiza Kweyo on Wednesday, the 7th of June. How's it, Anna?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm good.
All right, here are the news-making headlines. South Sudan struggled to clear mines as 2026 headlines approaches. Research finds that Lesotho has the highest suicide rates in the world, and Ghana patients in danger as nurses head for the NHS in UK medics.
Stay with us as we bring you more news after the break.
And commercial inserts. We are the leaders in our industry with the highest quality print work and the shortest turnaround time from computer to print and delivery anywhere in the country daily. Newsprint was established mainly as a newspaper print company, but had to diversify its business to do commercial printing as required in the market. We print commercial inserts previously printed in South Africa in the shortest possible time. We, as an organization, also started printing workbooks for our education system and will also print textbooks for the Namibian market. For more information, please contact print@newsprint.com.
Here are the news-making headlines. Now, South Sudan struggled to clear mines as 2026 deadline approaches. 12 years after South Sudan independence, landmines are still a threat. Over 5,000 people have been killed or injured by unexploded ordnances and landmines since 2004, according to the UN Mine Action Service. Eastern Equatorial Mangi County, near the border with Uganda, is one of the country's most heavily mined areas. By the end of 2021, the state had the most areas contaminated with cluster munitions in the nation, 55 out of a total of 130, according to Mine Action Review, who does global mine analysis. Eastern Equatorial County was also impacted by wars with Sudan and fighting with Ugandan rebel of the group LRA. For mine clearing experts working with the NGO MAG, this is not merely a job, it's a mission.
Now, in our next story, new research by Our World in Data has found that Southern Africa has some of the highest suicide rates in the world. Now, the data was collected in 2019 before the COVID-19 pandemic shut the world down. In the top 10 of the world's highest suicide rates per 100,000 people, Lesotho recorded 87.5 deaths. Eswatini comes in third with 40.05, and Zimbabwe is seventh with 23.6, followed by South Africa, Mozambique, and the deaths in the Central African Republic rounds off the top 10 with 23 deaths. Now, with 458 deaths per 100,000, Nigeria has the highest number of suicide deaths by use of firearms in Africa, followed by South Africa with 397 deaths. Now, according to the report, men in both low and high-income countries are on average 2 times more likely to die by suicide than women.
In our next story, Ghana patients in danger as nurses headed for NHS in UK. This is according to medics. The recruitment of nurses by high-income countries from poorer nations is out of control, according to the head of one of the world's biggest nursing groups. The comments came as the BBC finds evidence of how Ghana's health system is struggling due to the brain drain. Many specialist nurses have left the West African country for better paid jobs overseas. In 2022, more than 1,200 Ghanaian nurses joined the UK's nursing register. This comes as the National Health Service increasingly relies on staff from the non-EU countries to fill vacancies. Although the UK says active recruitment in Ghana is not allowed, social media means nurses can easily see the vacancies available enroll in NHS Trust. They can then apply for these jobs directly. Ghana's dire economic situations act as a big push factor. Harvard Carton, the International Council of Nurses, is concerned about the scale of the numbers leaving countries like Ghana. The head of the nursing at Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Gifty Ari, told the BBC her intensive care unit alone lost about 20 nurses to the UK and the US in the last 6 months.
Now, the rural farming community near the shores of Uganda's Lake Albert is lush and green and woefully underdeveloped. Now, more than 15 years after oil was discovered in the area, a $4 billion pipeline project promises to change everything. The consortium behind the project, which includes the Ugandan and Tanzanian governments, France's Total Energies SE, and China's CNOOC, say the 1,443-kilometer East Africa crude oil pipeline, or EACOP, will create thousands of jobs and generate billions of dollars in government revenues. Opponents, including Ugandan activists, European Parliament members, and Western environmental groups, argue that the project, which will involve drilling hundreds of oil wells in and around nature reserves, will destroy delicate ecosystems and increase emissions at a time when the world should be moving away from the fossil fuels. They have already convinced several banks and insurers to withhold support for the pipeline, delaying the project's financial close, now expected to happen later this year.
In our next story, humans and lions battle for resources in Kenya National Park. The killing of 10 lions in just 1 week in May at Kenya's Amboseli National Park has highlighted an increasing conflict between humans and wildlife over resources and climate change. One of Slain's lion was 19-year-old Lonkito, one of Kenya's oldest lions. In some areas, a lion population overlap with human settlements and livestock grazing areas, leading to negative interaction and conflict that often results in economic losses, threats to human life, and conservation challenges. Daniel Ole Sabu, head of the Predator Protection Program, Big Life Foundation, explains how the lion's territory is under threat. These wild animals need space, including predators, he says. So we are losing habitats, very important habitats for predators, because of land subdivision and people resorting to the selling of land, and then human population also becoming a challenge because we have homesteads coming up in every other area.
All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Now, as South Africa is continually facing pressure from United States politically with regards to their position on Russia, the rand is facing pressure from the US dollar. However, we may be paying less for petrol today. We'll be talking to Ari Hochad after the break.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
Is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. We are now joined by Ari Hochad in South Africa as he brings us the latest news stories from Mzansi, starting with this one. The South African rand is under increasing pressure from the US dollar, but it seems like you guys will be paying less for fuel today. Please get into that, Ari. Good to see you.
Yes, likewise, Ashwin. Yes, cold South Africa. I think cold in Southern Africa at the moment. But yes, the warm news is that there's relief on the petrol price, at least, going down 71 cents, and also the diesel going down 84 cents, and also paraffin going down 43 cents. So that is good news for the consumers. But the consumer is under pressure, so is government under pressure, and there's been a release from the International Monetary Fund, statements made by them. International Monetary Fund is the United Nations arm that have 190 members. South Africa is one of them. They say they're concerned with South Africa, with their ability to service their debt, and that is probably happening in households as well, high interest rates, etc. And so that is a concern for the South African economy. Hopefully the BRICS conference coming up, that is slightly controversial, is probably not slightly, but is controversial in a way with the ongoing battle between the neutrality with Russia. But the reality is there's a BRICS conference coming up, so hopefully that will also allow South Africa to have some influx that will stabilize the economy. But there is concern about the higher borrowing cost for South Africa, so hopefully that can be addressed. So the rand dollar at the moment, 19.21. A year ago, this time June last year, it was 15 rand and 77 cents. 10 years ago, we all forgot about that, it was 7 rand 91. So there's a definite big decline in that.
All right, Ari, we also understand that it is not only the South African rand that is under pressure, it is also the canned fruit industry of South Africa. Now, this comes after Tiger Brands closed a prominent canning factory in the Western Cape. Tell us about this.
Yes, it's two canning factories in Langeberg and Ashton. It's actually, they allowed it to stay on another year now. But it is a year ago that Tiger Foods announced that they will close that because they lost 37% of market share on the canned fruit produce. That is a bit of a surprise. They have a big market. It's one of the big brands is Koo, that is probably well known also in Namibia as well. But what happened there is a consortium of 160 farmers. They're trying to buy over those two facilities, but they need 300 million rand, so they couldn't put it together quickly enough. So that's still ongoing, but for this year, there will still be fruit that's canned. All those farmers, they are under massive risk. There's only one other cannery left in Toba. That's only the three major ones. So if those two close, it will be a very big challenge for those farmers in that area, unfortunately.
Apologies, Ari. That image made me feel like I did breakfast the wrong way today. I should definitely get some peaches. All right. Aviation experts expressed concerns that South African Airways might not get back their share of the international market. Could you please get into that?
Yes, I don't think we have canned fruit on those flights as well, Ashwin. And South African Airways did lose some definite market share because of the last 3 years that they were basically not in the air on those international flights. So it is a reality. All the international markets did realize that South Africans do want to fly out of South Africa, and lots of tourists do want to come into South Africa. So the big news is obviously that the COTSA consortium that bought over 51% of South African Airways, they still have 49% government owned. It's exactly the same as Turkish Airways, and they're doing well. Turkish Airways also 49% government owned. But at the moment, the market has been taken over quite a bit by Turkish Airways. One of them there, also very strong airlines like Emirates, KLM, also Air France, Qatar, and United Airlines. So they're all flying in and out of South Africa quite frequently and do have a strong market at the moment.
All right, and finally, the South African women's soccer coach Desiree Ellis has announced a preliminary squad for the upcoming Women's Soccer World Cup later this year. Tell us about this.
Yes, so we need to search for the positive things in our lives as well in South Africa. So that's positive. Just being at the World Cup is amazing. Obviously, defending African Cup of Nations champions. So that's the World Cup. That's in New Zealand and Australia coming up 20th of July. It's getting closer to 20th of August. Training camp for now, 35 players will be taken down to 23 players. South Africa in a tough pool against Sweden, Argentina, and Italy. But being African champions, they can definitely challenge those teams. And the other good news is that it seems like the government of South Africa is quite positive to take hands with the South African Football Association to try and host the 2027 World Cup for Women in South Africa. So that is breaking news. Hopefully that can happen. We do have the infrastructure, and hopefully there will be electricity for all those stadiums by then. But that's good news at least. So looking forward to the World Cup for Women later this year.
Certainly looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us the news stories from South Africa.
Excellent. Great talking to everyone, and a great day for everyone. We talk again next week, Wednesday, South African.
All right, cool stuff. Let's have a look at the weather predictions before we bring an interesting report from Germany.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive. And a master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My .NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Now we're going to take a look into the weather just now, but in-house journalist Jemima Bierkes is currently in Germany now. She visited the Zollverein industrial coal mining complex where professional guide Christoph Wilmer took her on tour. He explains that the site was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2001. Now Zollverein is a large former industrial site in the city of Essen, Germany. The first coal mine on the premises was founded in 1847.
Under the ground, and the coking plant is location number 6. But only these 3 parts have the title World Cultural Heritage. Well, I think this is more or less enough out here. We will go into the lab. First of all, you have concrete, like you can see here, for example, and then you have steel and the bricks, and sometimes window glass. Just keep this in mind. Different materials causing different problems when reusing the building, then you have the image in your mind already. We'll talk about that. We are difficult because a coking plant is a very difficult machinery. It's difficult to be maintained. We have many problems there. We are not yet as far as we are here. And we have some companies, for example, in that building. This is what we call the combed building because it looks a little bit like a comb. We have some companies there. We have a big function hall in that building, a huge function hall, but many of the buildings are not being used. And if you are World Cultural Heritage, there can still be modern development. So you can build new buildings, for example. And there are a number of new buildings here at the end. These are not the original buildings. This is the head office of the German coal mining company is there. Then the real estate daughter of the coal mining company is there. This is 150 staff members alone. Because the coal mining companies had a lot of property of ground in their hands, and there's a company managing that ground. And there's also a foundation located there. We just published their balance this morning. The location is quite rich, 17 billion euros on the bank account. But this location has to cover the eternal costs of coal mining. We will talk about the eternal, if you are interested, we will talk about the eternal costs later on. So in 2018, we use coal, we still use black coal. We have to import the black coal. Of course, these are huge buildings here, and the energy balance of these buildings is poor because these are industrial buildings. Nobody cared for a proper insulation. I will tell you something about the insulation later on. One result of the energy crisis that we had last year because of the Ukrainian war, we had to reduce the opening hours here in this building. Normally we are open every day of the week, and we installed a Monday that is closed, like all the other museums. Normally we are better than all the other museums, but now we are open again on Mondays, so we have overcome the energy crisis here.
Oh, okay. Take us.
Now let's have a look at our economic news. Africa's biggest economy is experiencing the slowest growth, and this is according to McKinsey. A new report by the McKinsey Economic Consultancy has shown that South Africa's biggest economies, including South Africa, Egypt and Nigeria, as well as Algeria, are experiencing the slowest growth on the continent. The growth in the past was driven by resources. We need to pivot now the productivity growth, said Achaleke, a senior partner with McKinsey. The report showed that the performance of these economies had slowed the overall growth of the continent. If you look at the growth over 10 years, it has grown 3.3%, which isn't good when you look at the population growth.
All right, that was our economic news story. We're going to get into the indicators, and right after that, your sports.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news. The French Open continuing its week 2, that is at Roland Garros in Paris, and it is the second major of the year. It's being played on clay, and it is results from the men that we look first. It is Holger Rune. He's the number 6 seed. He had a tough 5-setter. He had to play against Francesco Carandolo, and he's from Argentina. It was Holger Rune that came through in the end in 5 sets. The 5th set was a tiebreak. He will now play Casper Ruud. He's number 4 seed. That is in the quarterfinals of the tournament. Casper Ruud beating Nicolas Jarre in 3 sets. Also in the quarterfinals is Stefanos Tsitsipas of Greece. He's number 5 seed. He's got a tough quarterfinal coming up. He needs to play the number 1 seed Carlos Alcaraz of Spain. And the winner of that game will most likely meet Novak Djokovic, the number 3 seed, in the semi-finals. Moving on to the women's side of the draw, it is Coco Gauff of the United States. She's number 6 seed. Good result for her. Also through to the quarterfinals, she beat Anna Schmidlova of Slovakia by 7-5 and 6-2. She's now up against the number 1 seed. Also a tough quarterfinal waiting for Coco Gauff. She needs to play against Iga Swiatek of Poland. Then Ons Jabeur of Tunisia. She had a good win against Bernardo Parra of the USA. The score there is 6-3 and 6-1, and it is Ons Jabeur, the number 7 seed, that goes through to the quarterfinals, and she will play Beatriz Haddad Maia of Brasilia. She is number 14 seed in the tournament. Continuing international sports news with cricket news, and it is the much anticipated Ashes series between England and Australia that is coming up. The first test will be played on the 16th of June. But there's injury concerns also for Australia leading up to the Ashes, and that is their seam bowler, opening bowler Josh Hazlewood. He's got an Achilles injury, and he's not available for the World Test Series final that will be played.
Let's get into the highlights from this morning's broadcast. South Sudan struggles to clear mines as 2026 deadline approaches. Research finds that Lesotho has the highest suicide rates in the world. And Ghana patients in danger as nurses head for NHS in UK medics. Africa's biggest economy is experiencing the slowest growth.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Africa Good Morning. Please be reminded that our show broadcasts on DSTV channel 285 as well as GoTV channel 25. We welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can post them on our Twitter and Facebook pages. On that note, it's all our love, all our light.
Swera Jaganaka.